Chaos, confusion, and terror on the streets of Paris.
When I went on the streets, I've seen 20 to 25 bodies lying on the floor.
The City of Lights under attack by ISIS as nations around the globe watch. But the French are standing tall, just 4 days later, united.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Jaleesa Ambrose.
And I'm Marlene Bucio. Today is Tuesday, November 17th. A huge manhunt is underway for the orchestrators of the Paris attacks. Police say Salah Abdeslam is their key suspect. The Islamic extremist was reportedly stopped by the police during the attack, but was let go. 7 attackers died during the attacks on the French capital, most of them after detonating suicide belts. But it's unclear how many participated in the plot. CNN reports at least 153 people are dead after the attacks.
Gunmen opened fire and set off explosives in 6 locations in Paris. In response to the attacks, the French president issued a state of emergency and closed its borders.
When I went on the streets, I've seen 20 to 25 bodies lying on the floor.
Police say gunmen armed with AK-47 style weapons stormed restaurants and opened fire, killing multiple people.
We know that there's a lot of casualties.
Around the same time, police say explosions rocked the stadium during an international soccer match. At least 2 blasts were heard. France's president watching the match had to be whisked to safety while people inside the stadium scattered. French media also says several gunmen took dozens of people hostage in a concert hall. Now, with the country in crisis, investigators are working to find the motivation for murder.
It could be the worst ever in Paris.
As terror groups take to social media to celebrate the attacks.
We're going to do whatever it takes to work with the French people and with nations around the world to bring these terrorists to justice and to go after any terrorist networks that go after our people.
In recent years, we've seen hundreds of refugees fleeing the country of Syria because of extremists. Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner has temporarily banned Syrian refugees from the state. Texas, Alabama, and Arizona are a few other of the 24 states that stand with this decision.
ISIS is delivering a new message this time to the United States.
I swear to God, a similar day that France went through, you will go through. I swear to God, as we struck France in its stronghold, Paris, we will strike America in its stronghold, Washington, with God's will.
Law enforcement officials are taking additional steps for more protection in the nation's capital. However, the FBI says at this time there is no specific or credible threat to the United States.
Shortly after the attacks, President Barack Obama said this is not just an attack on Paris, but also an attack on humanity. Millions of mourners around the world are showing their support for the people of Paris.
In the wake of the devastating terror attacks that took place in Paris on Friday, people around the world mourn the tragedy. National moments of silence were held in Belgium, London, Australia, and at the G20 summit, where world leaders stood in solidarity with France. A memorial of flowers, trinkets, and candles is growing outside the French embassy in Washington, D.C., while in Boston, the Bernard family, who moved to the U.S. from France last year, placed flowers outside the French consulate.
I don't understand. I can accept this situation.
And take a look at this. Over the weekend, landmarks around the globe glowed in red, white, and blue lights in a show of support for the City of Lights. From One World Trade Center in New York City to the Opera House in Sydney and the Great Pyramid of Giza, in the face of tragedy, the global community joined together in solidarity and in song. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Even Chicago showed its colors, lighting up the skyline with Paris's similar flag colors, red, white, and blue.
One survivor of the Paris attack took to social media to share what happened on that horrific night. The South African student says in her post it was just a Friday night at a rock show. She recalls that she naively believed the gunshots were part of the show. She says it wasn't just a terrorist attack, it was a massacre. The student pretended to be dead over an hour. She concluded her post thanking the strangers who comforted her and apologized to those that did not survive. The post has received over 2 million likes on Facebook.
Many on the internet are referring to the attacks as the French 9/11. And even halfway across the world, the crisis has a way of touching home with Americans who remember being in a similar position 14 years ago.
Our reporter Tristan Sims took to the halls to see how many students in Chicago are reacting to international crisis. Tristan?
That's right, ladies. I spoke with Evan Sheehan, a Columbia College student, to get his reaction to the horrible news and what this may mean for Chicago.
It's horrible and scary, and I don't know, makes me like worried about Chicago because we live in a big city. So Paris wasn't expecting it at all, and I mean, we're not expecting anything, so I don't know, just open your eyes.
In recent days, ISIS has been threatening the U.S. over the internet, and Evan isn't alone in his fear for the future. Back to you ladies in the studio.
Thank you, Tristan.
As people around the world struggle to cope with the tragedy in Paris, one artist decided to pick up their brush. French artist Jean Julien created this unifying symbol. You may have seen it on any of your social media news feeds. The painting has 165,000 likes on Instagram and almost 60,000 retweets on Twitter.
As Parisians try to cope with this tragedy, a street musician is hoping they will imagine a sense of peace. Davide Martello traveled 400 miles overnight just to pay tribute. Martello played John Lennon's Imagine on piano outside Bataclan Theater, where the most deadliest attack happened. A group of people together in silence, just listening to him play. The pianist was watching the France versus Germany game when the attacks took place. Our international coverage, Paris fallout continues.
France is still ready to welcome over 50,000 attendees for the Paris Climate Change Summit. Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Barack Obama went head-to-head last Sunday. Tune in next to see why. The Republican presidential candidates wasted no time weighing in on how the United States should respond to the refugee crisis in light of the Paris attacks.
Candidates Jeb Bush, Ben Carson, and Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz took the weekend to voice their opposition to allowing any Syrian refugees asylum in the U.S.
But ultimately, the best way to deal with the refugee crisis is to create safe zones inside of Syria.
To bring them here under these circumstances is a suspension of intellect.
I'm calling on the president to do 4 things. Number 1, we need to close our borders.
Let me say plain and simple, it is lunacy to be bringing refugees into this country who may be terrorists trying to murder Americans.
At the Democratic primary debate on Saturday night, the candidates stood by Obama's current policy to take in a limited number of refugees. State governors also began weighing into the refugee crisis, with over half of the states now refusing to take in any refugees. Governors of nearly all the southern states have publicly stated their refusal to take in refugees. They are joined by many Midwestern states, as well as New York, Maine, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New Hampshire. It is unclear how the governors would enforce the ban once the federal government has granted the refugees entry into the country.
Despite the attack, the 2015 Paris Climate Conference, known as COP21, will still go on. The world's largest annual climate conference will take place from November 30th through December 11th. World leaders will be among the over 50,000 attendees who will continue their work designing an international climate change agreement. The president of France says continuing with the conference will bring hope and solidarity.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Barack Obama went head-to-head in a hotel lobby on Sunday ahead of the G20 conference. The two leaders talked for over 30 minutes about the Syrian civil war and refugee crisis as the pall of the Paris attacks hung over the conference. Russia has recently begun providing weapons and air support to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad under the guise of helping him fight ISIS. He accused Putin of targeting rebel groups backed by the U.S. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's new romantic movie made its debut this past weekend.
How did it do at the box office, and is it worth the watch? Our Sarah Miknowski has the review up next.
Plus, after paying millions of dollars in hush money, Charlie Sheen makes an appearance on Today's Show to announce he has HIV.
Now on to the Newsbeat film review. This week, we're taking a look at acting husband and wife team Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Sarah Miknowski is here now with a look at By the Sea.
By the Sea is Universal Studios' latest film. The movie takes place during the mid-1970s in France. A couple, Vanessa and Roland, are trying to repair their marriage, despite the obvious signs that they're drifting apart.
By the Sea, written and directed by Angelina Jolie, is one of the most visually pleasing films I have seen all year. The bright colors and beautiful landscape truly brings this film to life. The Arri Alexa XT camera has a Super 35 sensor, which means the camera they used is mocking a 35mm film, and it looks gorgeous. But honestly, that's the most I can say about this movie. The plot of this movie is weak, and the storyline gets much weaker as time goes on. This 2-hour and 12-minute movie is about 2 hours too long. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie play a troubled married couple, and that's it for 2 hours. Just a troubled marriage. Brad and Angelina's characters enjoy watching their neighbors through a peephole in their hotel room. You end up feeling more connected to the couple next door than the two main characters right in front of you. While watching the movie, I got so bored, I started making my own plot that Angelina's character had been abducted by Brad Pitt, and that was the reason for her weird and reserved behavior. The reason for her odd behavior isn't revealed until 2 hours into the movie. At times, the audio seemed off. There's points where they're in the same room, and it sounded like they were yelling at each other from a much further distance.
So the real question is it worth the price of admission? And the answer is a big no. All in all, this just seemed like a reason for the celebrity couple to work on a project together.
So this is their first time being back on camera together since Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right?
Yeah, actually, this is their first movie together in 10 years.
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Breaking news out of NBC's Today Show. In an exclusive interview with Matt Lauer, Charlie Sheen announces he is HIV positive.
I am, in fact, HIV positive. Hard 3 letters to absorb.
The former star of 2.5 Men says he was diagnosed with the virus 4 years ago after he felt a series of migraines. How he contracted the virus, Sheen doesn't know, but he ensures everyone he has informed every sexual partner of his condition. Sheen says it is impossible that he transferred the virus to others. Sheen also says he told people he trusted about the HIV, but some of them demanded money in order to keep the secret under wraps. The amount paid, up to more than $10 million. Sheen's appearance on the show was in an effort to stop those payouts. After he was diagnosed, Sheen's doctor prescribed him strong antiviral drugs, which have suppressed the virus to a point where he is absolutely healthy. And although Sheen does have HIV, he does not have AIDS.
Puma is being sued by a New York City designer after allegedly stealing their logo design. Robert Lopez of Les Brand is suing the company, claiming the logo was under his trademark. Lopez wants Puma to hand over the profits and destroy any other inventory that features his logo. He also wants the company to use his logo again. These were demands Lopez made in his latest lawsuit against the big company. The urban designer has gone after companies like J.Crew, Macy's, Urban Outfitters, Aeropostale, and Urban Outfitters in the past for his misusing his trademarks. Black Friday is approaching with less than 2 weeks to go, and while consumers look forward to discounted sales, economists don't share the same enthusiasm. Big brands like Macy's, Fossil, Nordstrom's, and Gap all reported lousy sale results, which have analysts predicting a bleak economic forecast for Black Friday. This comes on the heels of Walmart announcing its low expectations for holiday sales this year. Target announced it will be closing more stores, with financial analysts predicting a low sales increase in November, December, and January. Kohl's is the only major retailer that saw an increase in sales this past quarter. Most consumers are expected to do a lot of their holiday shopping on Amazon. The web company's stock is trading at an all-time high and is currently valued at $305 billion. Let's hope the weather will hold up for the shoppers who do wait outside in line.
Let's get a look at the forecast from Tara Gibbons. It's going to be wet. And wait, did someone say snow?
I think so.
Thanks, ladies. Yes, snow is approaching us.
All right. Well, snow boots, rain boots, have them out. Thank you, Tara. After the break, we turn to Casey Hints in sports. A couple big surprises over the weekend. What do we have in store?
Man, Kane, he is unstoppable.
Unstoppable. I thought Ronda was unstoppable. That fight was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. I think everybody thought she had that one, but maybe it was a little too much talk.
Well, there might be a rematch.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Know.
Well, thanks, Casey. That's it for us today. I'm Jaleesa Ambrose.
And I'm Arlene Bucio for Casey Hints in Sports and Tara Gibbons in Weather. Have a great day. Join us every Tuesday at 11:30 for our live broadcast.